Cults have been a major topic and interest for, I think, as long as anybody can remember, right? Most recently would probably be the alleged dancing cult 7M. This story is not that type of cult. The Zizians are a group of mostly transgender and non-binary young adults. They are described as highly educated computer scientists who are obsessed with veganism, animal rights, theories about the nature of human consciousness, and artificial intelligence. Which, if you're anything like me, you hate AI. I despise AI. And I'm so sick and tired of seeing it come across my Facebook and my Instagram and everything else. They've also been linked to multiple deaths across the country, including ones in California, Pennsylvania, and Vermont. So, who are the Zizians? How did all of this start, and what do we know so far? Well, buckle up, my friends, because this is one wild ride that I promise will have your jaw on the floor and leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about humanity. Hi guys, welcome or welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. It's so greatly appreciated. It truly, truly is. Before we get started, let me give you my usual disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only. Please do not take what I say as fact. Please always do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Next, if you have not liked, subscribed, or commented yet, please consider doing so because it really helps me out and I really, really appreciate it. Okay. Let's start with the ringleader of this alleged cult, 34-year-old Jack Lasota. Jack was born in 1991 and lived in Alaska. His father was an AI researcher at the University of Alaska. The same university, Jack would earn a bachelor's degree in computer science later on in life before going on to intern with NASA. I say all this to say that we are not talking about a stupid person here. He was actually a very highly intelligent person, which is what makes his actions even more mind-boggling. Jack is a self-described vegan who uses she, her pronouns and has become invested in transgender ideology. So, this story actually goes way back to 2016 when Jack was living in the San Francisco Bay Area and had begun writing a blog under the online persona Ziz. She would write about complex theories and ramble on about technology, gender identity, and human cognition. It was also around this time that she would get involved in a rationalist movement and community that sought to understand human cognition and are incredibly concerned with the potential dangers of artificial intelligence. It was also in 2016 that Jack would meet a girl by the name Gwen Danielson. July 5th, 2017, Jack, Gwen, and a third person decided to purchase a 94-foot World War II tugboat in Alaska. The tugboat was built in 1945 and was pretty much falling apart. After recruiting crew members, they all set sail for a voyage to California. The idea behind buying the tugboat and sailing to California was to be able to live on the tugboat for dirt cheap. July 8th, 2017, the tugboat arrives in Pillar Point Harbor in Half Moon Bay, California. The crew would decide to abandon the tugboat after it ended up leaking oil into the harbor. The Coast Guard would deem the boat a threat to the general public's health, and the government would end up suing the three. From there, the crew decided to live in box trucks in the harbor's parking lot. Jack Lasota, who had a fascination with Star Wars, would even adopt the name Jedi Jack from the employees at the harbor. While all of this is going on, they meet a man by the name of Curtis Lind. Curtis also had a boat at the harbor before deciding to sell his boat and move to a trailer park 55 miles north of the harbor on Lemon Street in Vallejo, California. Jack and members of his group, including Gwen Danielson, would rent 2 RVs in Curtis Lynn's trailer park, along with the option for them to park up to 6 trucks. Jack and the crew had an agreement to pay Curtis $2,000 a month. In 2018, Jack starts posting content to a blog. His content revolved around a theory called unihemispheric sleep. Okay. Unihemispheric sleep is a state of mind similar to hypnosis where people sleep with one eye open. It's intended to demonstrate that the brain's 2 hemispheres are separate identities and, according to Jack, often desire to unalive each other. He believed that reaching peace between hemispheres was a process of reconstructing frames of game and decision theory. He also wrote blog posts that included titles such as My Journey to the Dark Side, Vampires and More on Death, Punching Evil, Self-Blackmail, and Engineering and Hacking Your Mind. November 19th, 2019, Jack Lasota, Emma Borhanian, Gwen Danielson, and Alexander Leatham attend a retreat on a 200-acre property in Santa Rosa, California, called Westminster Woods Camp. The group arrive at the retreat wearing black capes and masks. They block the exits and accuse the people hosting the retreat of betraying them. The police are called, and the 4 are arrested and charged with conspiracy, obstructing an officer, and wearing a mask for an unlawful purpose. Because the group would only work with vegan attorneys, they had an incredibly difficult time finding somebody to represent them. To that, I suppose that's your preference, but on the other hand, who cares? Personally, I don't know. November 15th, 2021, the 4 file a lawsuit against Westminster Woods, the police and others claiming that they were mocked for being transgender, injured, and wrongfully arrested. The lawsuit would later be dropped after the 4 stopped showing up for their hearings for their own lawsuit. August 19th, 2022, the Coast Guard responds to a call in the San Francisco Bay. Emma Borhanian and Jack's sister report that at 11 p.m., while Jack was working on a boat's motor, he fell off. The Coast Guard was never able to locate Jack's body, and no death certificate was ever issued. This would be because Jack wasn't actually dead, even though an obituary was later published in a Fairbanks, Alaska newspaper. November 2022. Curtis Lynn goes to court and files to evict Jack Lasota, Emma Borhanian, and Alexander Leatham, who'd been living in vans and box trucks on his property and haven't been paying. November 15th, 2022. 2 days before the eviction deadline, police are called to the property of Curtis Lynn. Curtis tells police that Emma, Alexander, and a person named Suri Deo attacked him with knives and a samurai sword. Curtis luckily survived this attack, although he did end up losing an eye in the process. During the attack, Curtis was able to reach for his weapon and killed Emma Borhanian in self-defense. Alexander and Suri were arrested and charged with the for the attack on Curtis Lynn and charged for the death of Emma. So I'm thinking that kind of goes back to, I don't know, say that you decide to rob a bank and you're the getaway driver, and during the bank robbery, somebody dies. You are held just as responsible as the person that did it because you were in on it. And to be honest, I think that is fair enough, personally. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. December 31st, 2022. 72-year-old Richard Zacco and his 69-year-old wife Rita are found dead in their home in Chester Heights, Pennsylvania. after they failed to show up to care for Rita's mother. A neighbor's home doorbell camera captures footage of a car pulling up to the couple's home before a voice shouts, "Mom," and another voice shouts, "Oh my God, oh God, oh God." Police would end up questioning the couple's daughter, Michelle, at her home in Vermont. A few weeks later, police in Pennsylvania would briefly take her into custody after finding her at a hotel, but would later release her without charging her. Police would also find Jack Lasota at the hotel with Michelle. Jack pretended to be dead when the police arrived and continued this charade for so long that the police would be forced to hold up his head during his mugshot. That's how committed to this role he was. For this act, Jack would be arrested and charged with obstruction and disorderly conduct, but would be released in June of that year after posting bail. A warrant would then be issued for his arrest after he stopped showing up for court appearances. January 17th, 2025. So, 2 months ago. Curtis Lind, the lone survivor of all the attacks, is unalived 2 days before he's set to testify against his attackers. He's found with his throat cut on his property, the same property that Jack and his friends were renting from him. But Curtis wasn't unalived by any of his former tenants. He was actually unalived by a man named Maximilian Snyder. Maximilian studied computer science and philosophy. January 20th, 2025, 3 days later, Border Patrol agent 44-year-old David Mayland is unalived by Teresa Youngblood and Felix Buckholt during a routine Border Patrol check in Vermont. Officer Mayland was a military veteran who was working the Pentagon during the 9/11 attacks. He was also a U.S. Air Force veteran and a canine handler who served in Texas near the border of Mexico. Teresa, who studied computer science and computer software engineering, and Felix both had ties to Jack Lasota. The two began getting followed by police after a hotel employee called to report the two walking through their parking lot wearing all black, and Teresa was seen with a gun and holster. Because Felix was from Germany, Border Patrol would decide to do a routine immigration check on him. Border Patrol pulls over the couple's 2015 blue Toyota Prius. It would be during this traffic stop that Teresa would decide to open fire and Felix would reach for a gun inside the car. Border Patrol officer David Mayland would be killed in the attack, along with Felix after the agent returns fire. Jessica Taylor, who was friends with Felix Buckholt, who went by the name Ophelia, described her as thoughtful and intelligent person who had interest in mathematics, technology, and ethical veganism. Felix and Teresa both had firearms that were purchased by Michelle Zacco, the woman whose parents were unalived inside their home in Pennsylvania. So everybody ties together and everybody is linked to Jack Lasota. January 24th, 2025, police arrest Maximilian Snyder for the death of Curtis Lind. A few months prior to this, Maximilian applied for a marriage license to Teresa, the person responsible for the death of the Border Patrol officer. Maximilian Snyder releases a manifesto condemning the human consumption of animals. He refers to them as his brothers and sisters and implies that saving them is critical to the world. Okay. As of now, Jack Lasota, Michelle Zacco, and Daniel Blank have all been arrested and are being held without bail. But the story is far from over, and I am completely invested in it, and I will continue to keep covering it. If you guys are still here, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you, and I appreciate you so, so, so very much. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you haven't yet, and you feel so inclined to, because it really helps me out, and I really, really appreciate it. And until next time, stay safe out there.